He sat alone in the cockpit of the Wayfarer, a beat-up cargo ship that had seen better decades. The soft hum of the engines filled the cabin like white noise. Outside, the black of space stretched endlessly, dotted with distant lights. Some stars, some ships, most just illusions of hope. Ethan wasn't looking for trouble. He wasn't even really looking for work. He was just floating, waiting for the next job to come his way. Life as an independent trader on the edge of known space was lonely, but it gave him time to think. Time to forget. Then came the signal. It was faint, buried under layers of static and broken code. But something about it caught Ethan's ear. It didn't sound military, didn't sound like any colony he knew, and yet it sounded human. Please. Help me. The voice was weak, trembling, but unmistakably female. Ethan leaned forward, adjusting the signal booster. The voice came, again clearer this time. I'm alive. Hiding. Please don't let them find me. He frowned. Well, hell. That was enough. Without thinking too much, Ethan turned the Wayfarer toward the source. The coordinates placed it near the edge of Sector Theta 9, a dead zone where not even pirates dared to go. Nothing out there but cold silence and the occasional drifting wreck. Still he went. 2 days of hard travel later, he found it. A massive alien freighter, half buried in ice from a passing comet's trail. It spun slowly in the dark, its outer hull scorched and torn open in places. No lights, no movement, just death. Ethan docked carefully, using the Wayfarer's magnetic clamps to attach to what was left of the freighter's side. He suited up, grabbed his sidearm, and stepped inside. The air was thin but breathable. Lights flickered. Wires hung from the ceiling like veins ripped from flesh. Bloodstains marked the walls. This place had been hit hard. He moved quietly, scanning every shadow. His training kicked in. Military instincts sharpened his senses. Something had happened here. Something violent. Then he heard it. A soft sob. He followed the sound through a broken hallway, past fallen panels and shattered consoles. At the end of the corridor was a sealed room. The door was locked from the inside. Ethan knocked once, then again. A pause. A whisper. Who is that? Name's Ethan. I picked up your distress call. Silence. Then finally the door hissed open. Inside was a mess. Overturned furniture, scattered tools, and a small cot covered in blood-soaked bandages. But standing in the center of it all was her. She wasn't human. Her skin shimmered with a soft blue glow, her eyes large and luminous like twin moons. She wore torn clothing, and one of her arms was wrapped in makeshift gauze. Her long silver hair fell over her shoulders, tangled and matted with dried blood. She looked scared, exhausted, but still standing. You're human? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded. Yeah. And you look like you've had a rough day. She stared at him for a long moment. Then, as if the weight of survival had finally lifted, she collapsed. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor. Later, back aboard the Wayfarer, she stirred awake. They were far from the wreck now, flying silent, to avoid detection. Ethan had cleaned her wounds and given her water and protein bars. She hadn't said much yet, just stared at the ceiling, breathing slow and deep. Finally, she spoke. My name is Vela. Ethan sipped his coffee. Glad to hear it. Thought you might be a ghost for a while. She managed a small smile. Then, her face turned serious. They killed everyone else, she said softly. My crew, my friends. They never stood a chance. Ethan leaned forward. Who did? The Crag Dominion, she whispered. They hunt my kind. They want us gone. Ethan frowned. He'd heard rumors, stories traders told around campfires. The Crag were brutal, warlike, and always expanding. But no one had ever seen their homeworld. Few survived their raids. And you're the only one left? She nodded. I sent a message, hid it in old human codes. Hoped someone would hear. Someone who wouldn't turn me in. Ethan studied her. Why use human language? She met his eyes. Because humans, they feel things. Hope, mercy, fear. You fight, yes, but not just for power. I needed someone like that. Ethan looked away. He wasn't used to being called noble. Well, he said after a pause, you picked the right guy, or the wrong one. Depends how this goes. Vela smiled again, tired but grateful. Outside, the stars burned bright. And somewhere, a lone human had just changed the fate of an entire people. The stars passed slowly outside, the wayfarers' windows. Inside, the ship hummed with quiet life. Engine sounds, soft beeps from the control panel, and the occasional creak as metal cooled in space's chill. Ethan sat across from Vela at the small mess table. She was stronger now, her glow brighter, her breathing steady. But sadness still hung around her like a shadow. She held a warm cup in her hands, though she didn't drink, just stared into it. You said you sent your message in human code, Ethan said after a while. Why go to all that trouble? Vela looked up. Because humans are different. He raised an eyebrow. How so? You feel more than most species, she said softly. You fight, yes, but not just for conquest. You care, you hope. That's rare out here. Ethan leaned back, scratching his beard. That so? I've met some real bastards out here too. Vela nodded. Yes, but even they can change. It's why I chose your language. I needed someone who would stop and help. Ethan smiled faintly. Well, guess I'm your miracle then. She gave a small laugh. Maybe. Then her face turned serious again. My people are dying, she said. We are called the Thalari. We live in peace, we dream together, we share thoughts without speaking. We do not build weapons or warships, and because of that, we are easy prey. Ethan listened closely. The Crag came first as traitors, she continued, then as rulers. When we refused to submit, they began taking our children, our elders. They wanted us broken, but we resisted in secret. I was part of that resistance. She paused, eyes dark with memory. We built hidden ships, sent messages, tried to warn others, but the Crag found us, hunted us down. Only a few of us escaped. Ethan frowned. Where are the others now? There is one place left, she said. A sanctuary world, hidden behind a warp gate built by an ancient race. It can only be opened by a psychic key, and that key lives inside my mind. Ethan blinked. Wait. What? I carry the final access code, she said. It was placed there before I was born. My whole life I've been trained to protect it. Now, it's all that's left of my people. Ethan leaned forward. So if you reach this gate, you can save them? She nodded. If I reach it before the Crag do. Silence filled the cabin. Ethan looked at her, not just as a survivor, but as something more. Brave, smart, fighting when most would have given up. He exhaled slowly. Okay, Vela blinked. Okay? Yeah, he said. I'll help you get there. Her eyes widened. You don't even know where it is. I don't need to, he said. But I know what it feels like to lose people. To be the last one standing. If I can help, I will. Vela stared at him, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Thank you, she whispered. Ethan shrugged. Don't thank me yet. This is probably going to get ugly. She gave a tired smile. Just then, the ship's alarm beeped. Ethan stood quickly, moving to the control panel. A red light flashed. Contact, he muttered. And not friendly. Vela joined him. They found me. On the radar, 3 blips approached fast. Small, fast-moving craft. Pirate-style engines, but military-grade weapons. Crag bounty hunters. They're tracking me, she said, fear creeping into her voice. Ethan cracked his neck. Not for long. He hit the thrusters, sending the Wayfarer into a sharp turn. The ship groaned but obeyed. "Buckle up," he said. Vela sat down fast, holding on. Outside, the stars blurred as the ship jumped into high gear. The hunters closed, in firing bursts of energy that lit up the black. Ethan grinned. "Let's see how good these boys are." He twisted the controls, diving into a nearby asteroid field. Rocks the size of houses floated silently in space. Perfect cover. The chase was on. Inside the cockpit, Ethan's hands flew over the controls. He dodged left, rolled right, fired a short burst from the rear guns. One hunter veered off course, spinning wildly. Two left. Vela watched the screen, eyes glowing faintly. Then suddenly she gasped. "They're changing formation," she said. "One is coming in from below." Ethan barely had time to react before a flash lit up beneath them. "Damn, you're good," he said. "Do you trust me?" she asked. He glanced at her. "Right now? Yeah." She closed her eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the second hunter exploded in a silent burst of fire. "What the hell?" Ethan stared. Vela opened her eyes. "I pushed its pilot's mind. Made him miscalculate." Ethan let out a low whistle. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." She gave a weak smile. "Only if you deserve it." The last hunter broke off, retreating into the dark. Ethan slowed the ship, checking systems. All green. He looked at Vela. "Well," he said. "Guess we make a pretty good team." She nodded. "Guess we do." Outside, the stars burned bright, and, somewhere far beyond the known worlds, two unlikely allies had just begun a journey that would change the galaxy. Ethan sat in the pilot's chair, scanning the radar. The two remaining bounty hunters had vanished into deep space, but he knew better than to think they were gone for good. "They'll report back," he muttered, mostly to himself. "Which means more will come." Vela stood behind him, still, holding her arm where the wound had reopened during the chase. Her glow was dimmer now and her breathing came slower. "We need to move," she said softly. "Before they send something bigger." Ethan nodded. "Agreed. But we also need to know what we're up against." He pulled up the ship's data core, a basic system but enough to pull up enemy profiles from old trader networks. He typed fast, pulling up everything he could find on the Crag Dominion. What he found wasn't comforting. "Looks like your friends aren't just mad," Ethan said, scrolling through reports. "They've been hunting your kind across at least 6 systems. Whole colonies wiped out, no survivors." Vela looked down. "They fear us. Our minds are different. We can sense danger before it happens. We can share thoughts without speaking. That makes us dangerous to them." Ethan leaned back. "So you're not just running, you're hiding from something that wants you erased." She nodded. "And now they know I'm alive." Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. They jumped to a nearby refueling station orbiting a dead moon, Calyx 7, a rough stop known for smugglers, drifters, and people who didn't want to be found. As the Wayfarer docked, Ethan made Vela stay inside. He stepped out alone, wearing his usual jacket and keeping his posture relaxed. He knew how to play this game. Inside the station, traders and bounty hunters moved with wary eyes. The air smelled like oil, old food, and desperation. Ethan approached the bar, ordered a drink he wouldn't finish, and casually asked the bartender, "Heard any rumors about Crag bounties lately?" The old man gave him a sharp look. "You in trouble?" "Just curious," Ethan said, sliding over a few credits. "Heard they're paying well these days." The bartender took the credits and leaned in. "Yeah, they're offering big money for an alien woman. Blue skin, psychic, alive only." Ethan kept his face neutral. "Anybody take the job yet?" The man shook his head. "Too risky. Some say she's got powers. Others say she's just bait for something bigger." Ethan nodded, slowly. "Thanks." He left the bar and hurried back to the ship. Inside, Vela waited nervously. "Well?" she asked. Ethan closed the hatch. "You've got a price on your head, and the whole station knows it." Her face went pale. Then we have to leave. Now. But even as she said it, alarms blared through the docking bay. Outside, 3 armored figures stepped onto the platform. Crag enforcers in dark suits, weapons drawn. Damn, Ethan muttered. They work fast. Vela's eyes glowed faintly. They brought mind blockers. They know I can sense them. Ethan grabbed the controls. Time to go. He hit the thrusters. The Wayfarer roared to life, shaking slightly as it lifted off. The enforcers opened fire, energy blasts lighting up the bay. One shot hit the aft engine. Warning lights flashed red. Nope, 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 Ethan growled, yanking the throttle. The ship lurched sideways, scraping against the docking arm before braking, free into open space. Behind them, the station faded into darkness, and so did their pursuers for now. Back in the cockpit, Ethan checked the damage. Minor, but annoying. We lost some fuel, he said. Gonna need to make a stop. Vela sat quietly, staring at her hands. I'm putting you in danger. Ethan glanced at her. Yeah, but I signed up for it. She looked up. Why? He shrugged. Because nobody deserves to be hunted like this, least of all someone trying to save their people. She gave a small smile, tired but grateful. Outside, the stars passed silently, and somewhere far beyond the edge of safety, 2 unlikely allies were being hunted by the galaxy's darkest force. But they weren't giving up. Not yet. His stars blurred, behind the Wayfarer as it raced through deep space. Ethan Rourke sat in the pilot's seat, eyes locked on the navigation display. Behind them, the Crag bounty hunters were gone, for now, but he knew they wouldn't stay away long. We need help, Ethan said, half to himself. Vela sat across from him, her glowing blue skin dimmed with exhaustion. We can't keep running forever. Ethan nodded. Yeah, we need allies, heavy firepower, a plan. Vela looked at him. And where do we find that? He gave a tired smile. There's one place left. If they say yes, we might stand a chance. She tilted her head. Where? The Ghost Fleet. The Iron Horizon, better known as the Ghost Fleet, was more myth than truth. Once part of the human military, they had broken away after the last Outer Rim War, choosing freedom over control. Now they drifted between systems, hiding in dead zones and forgotten routes, striking when needed and vanishing before retaliation came. They were real, and if anyone could protect Vela, it was them. It took 3 days of careful jumps and coded signals before Ethan got a response. A voice crackled over comms, rough and filled with static. Unknown ship. Identify yourself. Ethan leaned into the mic. This is Ethan Rourke. I've got something the Crag want, and I need a favor. Silence. Then, finally, you're not dead yet, Rourke? Impressive. The channel cut out. Minutes later, a massive shadow emerged from the dark. It was an old battleship, its hull scarred with battle marks and patched repairs. Around it, dozens of smaller ships formed up. Freighters turned fighters, old cargo haulers refitted with weapons, and sleek scout ships built for speed. Ethan grinned. Welcome to the party. Inside the command center of the lead ship, the Valkyria, Ethan and Vela stood before a tall, grizzled man with a mechanical eye and a voice like thunder. Captain Reyes. He studied Vela carefully, then looked at Ethan. You brought an alien aboard my ship, Reyes said slowly. Ethan shrugged. She's not dangerous. She's the reason the Crag are hunting us. Reyes narrowed his eye. And why should I care? Ethan stepped forward. Because she's the last of her kind. Her people are being wiped out, and if we don't stop this now, the Crag won't stop with her. Reyes looked at Vela again. You believe that? Vela met his gaze without fear. Yes. They fear what they cannot control. My people are different. We feel things deeply. That makes us strong. That makes us dangerous to them. Reyes was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. All right, I'll hear you out. In the war room, maps lit up the table. Old routes, hidden paths, Crag patrol lines, all marked in red. Ethan pointed at a system far beyond known trade lanes. This is where we're going. There's an ancient warp gate here. It leads to a sanctuary world. Vela is the only one. Who can open it? Reyes crossed his arms. And the Crag know that too. They'll try to stop us, Vela said. They'll send everything they have. A younger officer spoke up. Even if we get there, we'll be outnumbered. Ethan smiled. Not if we hit them first. All eyes turned to him. He tapped the map. Here, this outpost. It's a staging ground for their hunters. If we take it out, we buy time. Maybe even throw them off our trail. Reyes studied the plan. Then he looked at Ethan. You're asking me to risk my fleet for someone else's war. Ethan met his gaze. No. I'm asking you to fight for something worth fighting for. Silence filled the room. Then Reyes stood. We move at dawn. The mission began under cover of darkness. The ghost fleet moved silent through the void, engines running low to avoid detection. Scout ships led the way, scanning for patrols. When they reached the Crag outpost, it was exactly as Ethan expected. Fortify. But arrogant. The Crag believed no one would dare attack them so deep in enemy space. They were wrong. Ethan led the strike team in the Wayfarer, slipping through the outer defenses with expert timing. He dropped cloaked scouts onto the surface, disabling key defense towers before the main fleet arrived. Then the sky burned. Lasers lit up the night as the ghost fleet opened fire. Ships dove and rolled, weaving between enemy fire while pounding the base below. Ethan stayed low, dodging blasts as he guided the final strike team to the command center. Vela sat beside him, eyes glowing. They know we're here, she whispered. I figured, Ethan said. Time to show them what humans do best. He slammed the throttle. The Wayfarer shot forward, firing a final burst that shattered the command tower. The outpost went dark. Back aboard the Valkyria, the crew celebrated. But Reyes looked at Ethan with new respect. You didn't just win a battle, he said. You earned trust. Ethan smiled. That's all I ever wanted. Vela stepped beside him. Now we go home. Reyes nodded. Then we'll make sure you get there. Outside, the stars shone bright, and somewhere, far beyond the edge of safety, humanity had taken its first step toward becoming something greater. Not just survivors. Not just traitors, but warriors for peace. The stars blurred past as the Wayfarer raced through deep space, flanked by a fleet unlike any Ethan had ever seen. It was called the Iron Horizon, a scattered armada of old warships, converted freighters, and refugee vessels. Once part of the human military, now independent, they had answered Ethan's call, and they were ready to fight. Behind them, the Crag Dominion was closing in. Dozens of enemy ships poured from warp lanes like angry hornets, engines burning hot against the dark. Their jagged hulls gleamed with cruel intent. They outnumbered the Iron Horizon nearly 2-1. Ethan stood in the command center of the lead ship, the Valkyria, watching the tactical display light up with red markers. They're not slowing down, said Captain Reyes, commander of the Iron Horizon. They know what's at stake. Ethan crossed his arms. Then we make sure they don't reach it. Vela stood beside him, her blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. She looked calm, but he could see the tension in her eyes. The gate is close, she said softly. I can feel it. Ethan nodded. Good. Then let's get you there. The ancient warp gate loomed ahead like a ring of forgotten gods, massive and silent. It floated in orbit around a dying star. Strange symbols pulsed along its outer rim, glowing with power that no one fully understood. It had been built by a long-vanished race, and only the Thalari still knew how to use it. If Vela could activate it, the survivors would have a way to escape forever. But first, they had to survive the storm. Crag fleet has entered weapons range, Reyes called. Ethan turned to the comms panel. All ships, this is Rourke. Hold the line. We protect that gate until Vela gets through, no matter what. The fleet split into formation. Smaller fighters darted forward like bees, while heavier ships formed a defensive wall between the crag and the gate. Lasers lit up the void. Explosions bloomed silently in the black. The battle had begun. Ethan sat in the cockpit of the Wayfarer, flying fast and low through the chaos. He dodged a barrage of fire, rolled sideways to avoid a falling wreck, and fired back with his twin cannons. A Krag fighter exploded in a flash of green. "This is getting ugly," he muttered. "Agreed," Vela said over comms. "The gate is active, but it needs more time to stabilize." "Time is something we don't have," Ethan replied. He banked hard to the left, weaving between larger ships. Below him, the Iron Horizon fought desperately to hold position. One cruiser took a direct hit and broke apart in a slow-motion burst of flame. Reyes's voice came through the speakers. "We can't hold forever, Rourke." "I know," Ethan shouted back. "Then we make it count." He dove toward the outer ring of the gate, scanning for an entry point. "There," Vela called. "That platform, it connects directly to the control core." Ethan saw it, a small docking ring near the base of the structure. If he could land there, Vela could finish activating the gate manually, but it was crawling with Krag soldiers. "No problem," he muttered. "Just another Tuesday." He landed hard, skidding onto the platform under heavy fire. Blaster bolts zipped past as he threw open the hatch. "Go, I'll cover you." Vela leapt out, moving fast despite the danger. She sprinted toward the control console, her hands already glowing with psychic energy. Ethan drew his sidearm and opened fire on the nearest Krag squad. He ducked behind. Cover, returned fire, and moved fast, his combat training kicking in. More enemies poured from the shadows. One lunged at him with a blade. Ethan sidestepped, grabbed the soldier's arm, and twisted. The alien crashed into the floor with a grunt. Another fired, grazing Ethan's shoulder. He staggered back, gritting his teeth. Above them, the sky burned with battle. Inside the control room, Vela placed both hands on the central interface. She closed her eyes. Images flooded her mind. Her people fleeing, her family vanishing into the dark, the screams of those lost. She focused all of it into the gate. The symbols brightened. The ring began to spin. "Almost there," she whispered. Outside, Ethan was bleeding, out of ammo, and surrounded. A dozen Krag soldiers pointed their weapons at him. He raised his hands slowly. Then, a pulse of light shot from the gate. It swept across the battlefield like a wave of dawn breaking after a long night. Every Krag soldier froze. Their minds cracked under the psychic force of the Thalari's final defense. One by one, they collapsed. The battle was over. Back aboard the Wayfarer, Ethan leaned heavily against the bulkhead, breathing hard. Vela sat across from him, tired but smiling. "You did it," he said. She nodded. "We did." Outside, the Iron Horizon ships gathered near the now active gate. Refugees began to move through, vanishing into the unknown beyond. A new home awaited. And humanity had just proven itself to be more than just another species in the stars. They were protectors. They were heroes. And somewhere, far beyond the known galaxy, the stars remembered the name Ethan Rourke. The warp gate pulsed with ancient power, its glowing ring humming like a heartbeat in the cold silence of space. Beyond it lay the unknown, a passage to safety, to hope, to a future that had nearly been stolen from the Thalari people. Ethan Rourke sat in the pilot's seat of the Wayfarer, watching the massive alien fleet move through the gate one by one. Refugees filled every ship. Families, elders, children who had never known peace. They passed into the light like pilgrims stepping into a new world. Vela stood beside him, her blue skin shimmering faintly in the dim cockpit. "It worked," she whispered. Ethan gave a tired grin. "Yeah, looks like." Behind them, the Iron Horizon ships held formation, making sure no Krag forces tried to follow. The battle was over, but caution remained. One by one, the last of the Thalari vessels vanished into the gate. Then it was just the Wayfarer and Vela. She turned to Ethan. "You don't have to come with me." He looked at her. "Why wouldn't I?" "You've done enough," she said softly. "Your people fought for mine when no one else would. You risked your life for someone you didn't even know." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "And now I know you. and I'm not about to leave you hanging. Vela smiled gently. Then she reached out and touched the control panel. The warp gate responded instantly, recognizing her psychic signature. A final pulse of energy surged outward, sealing the path behind them. They were going home. With a deep hum, the wayfarer entered the gate. Light swallowed them. When it faded, they were somewhere new. A lush star system stretched before them. Planets, glowing with color, moons drifting peacefully in orbit, and at the center a single breathtaking world. It was untouched, beautiful, safe. This is it, Vela said, awe in her voice. The sanctuary world. Ethan stared out the window. Damn, it's real. They descended slowly through the atmosphere, past clouds that shimmered like liquid silver. Below, vast forests stretched for miles. Rivers glowed with soft light, and floating cities hovered above the land like dreams made solid. This was more than a refuge. This was a miracle. As the wayfarer landed in a quiet clearing near one of the settlements, the ground felt warm beneath their boots. The air smelled clean, rich with life. People gathered around them, Tal'ari, all shapes and colors, their eyes wide with wonder and gratitude. Vela stepped forward, tears in her eyes. I did it, she said. I brought them home. An elder approached, dressed in flowing robes that seemed to shift with the wind. He placed a gentle hand on Vela's forehead. We feared you were lost, he said. But you returned, and you brought a gift with you. He looked at Ethan. A human, another Thalari whispered. Here, among us. There was no fear in their voices, only curiosity, respect. Ethan raised his hands. Just here to help. The elder nodded. You are welcome here, Ethan Rourke. You have done what many could not. You have saved our people. In the days that followed, Ethan found himself treated like a hero. Doctors healed his wounds. Children followed him with bright eyes, asking stories of the war. Scientists studied the wayfarer, fascinated by human technology. But the greatest surprise came from the Council of Leaders. They gathered in a great hall carved into the roots of an ancient tree, where light filtered through crystal leaves and thoughts flowed like music in the air. Vela stood beside Ethan as the council spoke. You have proven the strength of your kind, the elder said. Humanity has always been seen as wild, untamed. But today, you showed us something different. Ethan shrugged. We're just people. We mess up, we fight, but we also care, we protect. The council exchanged glances. Then the elder spoke again. For this, we offer you trust. We will open our world to your kind, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as friends. Ethan blinked. You're serious? Vela smiled. You changed everything. Outside, the stars shone brighter than ever, and somewhere far beyond the edge of known space, humanity had taken its first step into something greater. Not war, not conquest, but peace. Soft light spilled across the forest canopies, casting golden shadows on the floating cities above. Birds with shimmering wings flew in silent harmony. The air was rich with life, clean, calm, and full of hope. Ethan Rourke stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking one of the great Thalari cities. He had been here for weeks now, healing, learning, and watching a new beginning unfold. Behind him, Vela approached quietly, her blue skin glowing faintly in the morning light. You're leaving soon, she said, not as a question, but as a truth. Ethan nodded. Yeah, I've stayed long enough. She stepped beside him, looking out over the city. You don't have to rush back into the stars, he smiled. I know, but there's still work to do. She turned to face him. What kind of work? Looked at her, serious now. Protecting this place, making sure the Krag never find it, and making sure humanity knows what's at stake. Vela studied him. You want to tell your people about us? I do, Ethan said. But not just that. I want to build something, a way to defend worlds like this, a way to stop monsters before they destroy more lives. She was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. Then you'll need allies. I already have one, he said, smiling. She returned the smile, but it didn't hide the sadness behind her eyes. You changed everything, she whispered. For my people, and maybe for yours too. Later that day, Ethan stood in the council hall once more. Before him sat the Thalari leaders, their minds linked in silent conversation. When they finally spoke aloud, their voices were calm but filled with gratitude. Ethan Rourke, the elder said, you came to us as a stranger. You risked your life to save ours. For this, we honor you. Another leader stepped forward, holding a small crystal orb that pulsed with soft light. This holds the memories of our people, she said. Our history, our knowledge, our hopes for the future. She placed it in his hands. We trust you with it, she said, because you proved that humans are more than what others believe. Ethan held the orb carefully, feeling its warmth. Thank you. The elder spoke again. You may return when you wish. This world is open to you. He nodded. I'll be back. I promise. Back aboard the Wayfarer, Ethan powered up the engines and watched the jungle fade beneath him. Vela stood on the landing pad below, waving. Gently as the ship rose into the sky, he gave a small wave back. Then, with a deep breath, he set a course for human space. There was much to do. Months passed. In the outer colonies, rumors began to spread. A lone human pilot had saved an entire alien race. He had faced down the Crag Dominion and lived, and now he was calling for help. From traders to ex-soldiers, from scientists to diplomats, humans from all walks of life began to answer the call. They gathered on neutral stations, shared messages through hidden channels, and formed something new. Not an army, not a government, but a movement. A coalition of those who believed in protecting peace, not taking it by force. And at the center of it all was Ethan Rourke. One night, on a quiet station orbiting a forgotten moon, Ethan stood before a group of humans and aliens alike. Some wore old military uniforms, others were simple traders or refugees. One was even a former pirate. He looked at them all. We've seen what happens when we do nothing, he said. We've seen what happens when fear wins. He held up the crystal orb. But we also saw something else. We saw hope. We saw courage. We saw that one person can make a difference. He lowered his voice. Now it's our turn. To protect the weak. To stand between danger and peace, to prove that humanity isn't just another species in the stars. He looked around the room. To prove that we care. Silence followed. Then one by one they stood, hands raised, voices joined. The movement had begun. Far away, in a hidden star system untouched by war, the sanctuary world remained safe. Its people thrived, rebuilt, and dreamed of a better galaxy. And, somewhere among the stars, a lone human and his ship kept flying, always watching, always ready. Because humanity had answered the plea of a desperate alien woman. And in doing so, they had found their place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as protectors, as heroes, as something worth believing in.